Hey everyone, welcome back to Free the Money. Today I'm joined by Rahul Pagidipati, who is the CEO of ZebPay, which is one of India's largest cryptocurrency exchanges. He's been investing in digital assets since 2011. Beyond crypto, Rahul is a very successful serial entrepreneur and investor. He co-founded Freedom Health, which grew into one of the largest private health insurance companies in the United States, with nearly $2 billion in annual revenue before being acquired by Anthem in 2018. Today, Rahul is also the managing partner at Ayon Capital and serves as a chairman of the board at Brave Software, the company behind the privacy-focused Brave browser. Through Ayon Capital, he's led investments in multiple unicorn healthcare companies such as Oscar Health, RxAdvance, and Rise. Welcome to the show, Rahul. Welcome to Free the Money. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Well, thanks for having me. I'm really excited to dive in.
It's great to have you on the show. So before we dive into crypto, the future of finance, and AI, I'd really love to hear a little bit about your story. You obviously are a very successful entrepreneur, and I would just love to hear kind of what led you down that path. And I know entrepreneurship runs deep into your family, so I'd just love to hear a little bit more about that.
I'm actually kind of a family from a family of doctors. So both my parents are doctors. My wife's a physician, and both of her parents are doctors too. So there's a lot of physicians. But my father, he's very entrepreneurial, and since we were little kids, like tiny kids, he'd always been starting businesses. And so I think there's a lot of interesting story about entrepreneurship. There's like a father-son, even probably father-daughter type stuff as well. Like you look up to your dad who's an entrepreneur, and it was fun seeing him build businesses. And I actually, even though I love entrepreneurship, I think of myself as like a 51% entrepreneur, like 49% investor. And I can flip back and forth. I love investing. I love entrepreneurship. And my dad would basically start companies. Like he'd be practicing medicine and then like taking any amount of like kind of extra income he had and he'd throw into a company. And the big lessons there was that a lot of people think that like it's like a straight up shot. No, it was kind of like he would have like 4 failures and then one would work.
Mm-hmm.
And then take what would work, and then like another failure, then one would work. And I think when he kind of realized that based upon as long as you risk manage, you could do okay. But like that's a big mistake. So anyways, the core point is kind of learned from my parents that entrepreneurship was a little bit like the American dream. And I have an older brother, me and my younger sister, and the 5 of us have been working together since we were like teenagers. And so it's been like it's a family of entrepreneurs.
I love that. That's incredible. So you guys started Freedom Health together, which became one of the largest private healthcare companies. I'm just curious about how you guys started that and your involvement.
Back to the lesson of my dad and how he started, businesses is that when he first started, he kind of went into like things which weren't healthcare related. I think he bought like a granite company and then like a motel and then like a franchise restaurant and some of them worked, some of them didn't. And then by like the mid 90s, after like maybe 15 years of entrepreneurship, he looked back at what worked, and what worked was more healthcare ones. And so he realized that like, hey, listen, if I double down on healthcare, which I know I probably have an edge. And before we get into the health insurance, my mom, who's also a doctor, she started a clinical lab, and amazing. You're a female entrepreneur, and so that's what was she, and she basically started up the largest independent clinical lab in Florida. So she had like 200 employees. This is like in the late 90s or so. And my dad was really helping her out. And during the path of helping her out, during the second Bush, George W. Bush, when he came out, he made this thing called the Medicare Modernization Act, which was really like a change to how Medicare was going to be, the payments and the network and stuff like that. It was going to affect our lab business. So what we realized that healthcare was changing and insurance companies were becoming more powerful. And it was kind of like to the point where if you can't beat them, join them idea. And we thought, you know what? No, it wasn't really that. It was more that we thought that insurance, we could actually do a positive take on it. And so my mom and my dad and my brother, and I was in like my MBA in law school program. We all decided to work together. You know what? It was a crazy idea. It's like we took all of our money and we said, you know what? Let's start an insurance company.
Wow.
Yeah. And they sold everything else or borrowed against it, and then it wasn't all in all at once. It was like first half in all at once, but then we had to add, and we added everything over about 5 years. And from 2003 is when it started to 2008, it was the 7th fastest growing company in America. It was like number 7 on the Inc. 500. It grew to nearly 200 million in revenue, and at this point, it got like kind of too big for us to manage. So then what we did is we brought in an outside investor who took the majority stake of the company, and we kept the minority stake. And from there, it grew from 180 million to nearly 2 billion in revenue over the next 10 years. And at that point, it had become the largest private Medicare Advantage plan in America.
Wow,
And
that's
yeah,
incredible.
yeah. And in 2018, we sold that to Anthem for close to $2 billion. Yeah,
My gosh. Wow.
yeah,
Okay, so
yeah.
going into that, when you guys were thinking about basically selling everything, what was going through your
Yeah.
mind?
Yeah. So, and this is the thing. So at this point, my dad had achieved the American dream in the sense that he'd come to America. He had, put his kids through college.
Mhm.
And I think, he's a risk taker. He definitely, and he's a visionary. He loves looking forward. I think I've inherited a lot of the vision stuff from him. And my brother is actually an operator, so he actually understands operations really well. And so what happened was, he realized that the world was changing, and then he told the family, "Hey, listen, you know, kids, I don't know if you're up for it, but I think this is an enormous opportunity, and if you're willing to, everyone take the whole family all own equal shares. Like if you guys are willing to put all of our eggs into this basket, I think it'd be a great deal." And so it took some convincing about 6 months, a year to be like, should we do it or not? At that point, we put like say half of the family money into it, and then we underestimated how much money it would take. So you kept on adding and adding and adding,
Mhm.
and it got to basically like an all-in bet. The reason why we kind of had to step back and take some capital table was we found a great partner. His name is Kiran Patel, Dr. K. He's another healthcare entrepreneur in Tampa. He came in and kind of like de-risked us, but we kept the stake. And that's how, two parts, it helped de-risk the investment, but also help scale the company to the
Mhm.
next level. Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is that similar to how you felt about Bitcoin when you first discovered Bitcoin? You're
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
"I want
So,
to be all in
uh,
on Bitcoin."
yeah, on the Bitcoin side, what's so interesting is I first learned about Bitcoin in 2011,
Yeah.
and very, very early. And I was like, this is either the most amazing thing in the world or the biggest, Ponzi scheme in the world. I immediately saw what was going on. I was like, this is cool, but like, is it going to work? Or I also, is it going to be, remember back in the old days, there's a lot of like, Trojan horses and viruses and scams. Like, it was asking you to download a piece of software and trust it. Right? And you didn't know, if you just go to some website and download, like, is it really monitoring your computer? Because I know you're into privacy as well. I
I
was
know
worried,
that
like,
I'm always
yeah,
so skeptical of downloading
yeah.
anything.
So I went there, I read the paper, I'm like, I'm not gonna download this thing. It's an exe file,
Yeah.
right? And so I had our network administrator from one of our companies look at it. He's like, man, I don't know if it's safe, but I can't guarantee it. It seems reasonable. And I was like, seems is not a good point. And so I looked at it in 2011 and realized, it's too risky for me to put a ton of time and energy into it. But then I kept coming back into it, and by 2013 was convinced it was real. At this point, I bought a few Bitcoin, and when I realized it was real, I started mining it. I was like, you know what? Let me actually go under the hood and instead of outsourcing it, do it myself. So I actually went in the Bitcoin forums, joined a mining pool, bought some miners, and really, like say, got my hands dirty and figured out how to actually make the real Bitcoin. Right. At this point, then I was sold. I was like, this is a real idea.
What do you think other people missed during that time that you didn't? What made you see how important Bitcoin was, like how it could revolutionize the world?
So yeah, I think I was it will I have a lot of gratitude and that I was able to see it earlier. Like, it's kind of like there's a lot of luck involved in it, and so part of the reason why I was able to see it was I mentioned I'm a lawyer, I have a JD, and I have an MBA, and then so it's also called take those two skills, add in economics, which is my undergrad degree, and then the last part is I used to code, so I know I don't have a degree in computer science, but I used to program and stuff like that. So when I read the Bitcoin white paper, it was crazy, but I could understand bits and pieces of it. I'm like, this is really interesting. And I think to me, the really big thing is, I'd say, interdisciplinary skills, like understanding how different disciplines connect all together, right? Because it is kind of, even though Ethereum is smart contracts, Bitcoin is also smart contracts. It's real code. It's a contract between two people. And I was seeing like law, I was seeing code, I was seeing, hard money. There's all these amazing ideas in this thing. And like I said, it took some time to get in, but within 2 years, and it did. I was convinced it was one of the most important documents
Yeah.
that honestly man had ever made. It
Yeah.
sounds crazy, but yeah, yeah.
I read somewhere where you say it will be equivalent to the United States Constitution one day, and I think it already is. But at that time when you discovered Bitcoin, did you realize that this could fundamentally change finance, the way we transact? Was that kind of going through your head, or did you see it more as, oh, this is an opportunity to make serious wealth?
Yeah. So it was the former. Like, so when I saw it, when I first saw it, I was questioned, but after it marinated for a while, I realized, wow, this is actually not. It's not just about Bitcoin and money. I mean, it's a transformational technology. And what the real way I got back to it was that our family were health insurance entrepreneurs, and when I was seeing how the code worked, because I actually went in and mining, and I was like, oh wow, like I get paid Bitcoin to keep the network secure.
Hmm.
And the first company I started was called Ayon, where we did a lot of back end insurance processing in India, where you're doing all the code. And I was like, you're coding like healthcare coding, not software coding. You're coding in different claims to health insurance.
Okay.
And I was like, wow, I think this technology could eventually be used to build a kind of decentralized insurance company. I didn't know what I meant by that, but I was like, oh, that's when I was thinking about smart contracts and everything else. Once I realized that like the technology, it was basically as a foundational layer. Like,
Hmm.
think of internet as being the internet, and think of smart contracts or Ethereum being like the World Wide Web, or like, something else being email or something else being video. But you need that foundational layer, which is Bitcoin. And I realized that once Bitcoin was there, that like you could do so much more stuff with it. And so yeah, it was more the technology it was groundbreaking.
Absolutely. And then obviously, I want to get into also Ethereum and the basic attention token, because I know you're very bullish on both of those as well. When did you first discover ZebPay, and how did you become so interested?
Yes, what happened was, yeah, my parents immigrated here from India. They immigrated 50 years ago. And a fun, cool thing, if you Google our name, we actually made a $50 million donation to celebrate my parents coming to America 50 years ago in
Wow.
1973. Yeah, it's 2023 or 24 we announced it. And so we made a $50 million donation to create a children's hospital in Tampa.
Wow.
And my parents, and you were talking about this earlier, it really embodied the American dream, coming here with like nothing and creating. We just had the Independence Day a few days ago, right? So
Yeah.
so lucky to be in this amazing country.
Yeah.
So when they came over here, I was born here, raised here, and I've always felt American. But when, in my late teenage, early 20s, I started a love for India. So basically moved back to India, started up a company. And then from from age 21 to about 25, I kind of lived mostly in India. Then came back and got my graduate degrees. And when I saw ZebPay, it's kind of an interesting story. What happened was I'd been falling in love with Bitcoin and the whole ideas of it, and it was really like an understanding that even though Bitcoin is amazing, I knew that America had actually solved a lot of the problem, in the sense that dollar was the best house in a bad neighborhood. Like the dollar, it's a good fiat currency. It's not like these other ones are depreciating much worse. And so people don't see it, but I knew the rupee was depreciating really fast. And I also knew that America was already a wealthy country, so they wouldn't appreciate Bitcoin as much as people in poorer countries.
Hmm.
So what happened was, I was like, man, I wonder what's going to happen in India with this stuff. And I just kind of kept my eye open. We were already at that point investors in Coinbase, and Coinbase has not gone public yet. We bought some pre-IPO stock in
Okay.
Coinbase. And then I went to a Bitcoin conference in 2017. And when I was there, I met some of the founders of ZebPay and kind of stayed in touch with them. And then what happened was, in 2018, during like the kind of big run up, actually, yeah, 2018, the RBI, the Reserve Bank of India, they kind of banned banking access to crypto exchanges. At this point, the founders, they were like trying to raise money, and everything fell apart. And I was like, as like a value investor, I'm like, man, this is a very interesting opportunity. Maybe I can come in and do some stuff. So there were a lot of like, back and forth negotiating. Eventually, made a minority investment in the company in 2018. And really, the idea there was, I thought that the RBI could potentially kind of turn around, but it didn't happen as quickly. They took more time to understand what the technology really was.
Okay. So now Bitcoin in India is legal. It's just taxed quite
Yeah,
highly. I think like 30%. I did
yeah,
not know this though, but this actually makes sense. India has the most cryptocurrency holders
yeah,
globally, roughly about like 7% of their population, over 100 million
yeah.
people, which is pretty cool to think. So it's like the largest economy for crypto.
Yeah, exactly. So India, even though the dollar amount's not as big as like the United States, because we're a wealthier country, but like people in India there's two reasons why they get it. One reason why they get it is they love gold, right?
Hmm.
India is the largest buyer of gold, and I know you're a big gold fanatic as
Yeah.
well, and I am too, but I don't own it now just because I'm so hardcore into Bitcoin. But Indian culture's like huge into gold, and I get it. And so when I saw that, I was like, wow, that is really a big, say, light bulb in my mind that, if Indians love gold so much, I think eventually they'll love Bitcoin.
Hmm.
And so Bitcoin, like, and listen, crypto in general is huge in India. And I just think it's probably, if you ask me personally, I think that the biggest impact that Bitcoin can have are in places like India.
Yeah. Yeah. So at the time when you are thinking about, investing heavily into ZebPay and then eventually buying the company, did people think you were nuts for
Yeah, yeah,
for
yeah,
investing
yeah.
money
It was,
into a company
yeah,
where crypto is
yeah.
not even accessible to the
It's not
people?
even
It's
legal. Yeah,
totally
yeah,
illegal.
yeah. And so it actually took a lot of convincing the family to make the investment. So the first tranche not as bad because like the company was doing well, and we went in and made the investment thinking that, you know what, we'll make a small investment. But then really it's kind of like catching a falling knife. Is that we put in, and then we put in here, but then it literally went like all the way down to here. It kept falling and falling and falling just because
Like,
the
oh my God.
government kind of like got very, very strict, and it got to the point where they said that, you know what, even if you own Bitcoin, we'll throw you in jail, right? Just
Wow.
the fact of owning it.
Yeah.
And when that news came out, the founders were like, hey, Rahul, we really can't do this. Like, we can't run a company. It's too risky for us to even run this company because the Indian government's going to come in and threaten to jail us. And they're like, we're going to shut this thing down. I was like, guys, I just invested, a lot of money to you guys. If you don't want to do it, then I'll do it. And so the idea then was, um, and this is where it's risky, is that I went back to the team and said, listen, we bought here, we should buy here. And they're like, no. It's like the company's going to zero. Putting any more money into this company, even though it's an amazing deal, is the absolute worst idea in the world. So after like about a month of trying to convince them, I was like, oh, you know what, guys, I know you don't believe in it, but I feel like I have to do this because if ZebPay fails, it's going to cause a major badness to Bitcoin. ZebPay was a Coinbase of India. It was the biggest Bitcoin exchange in India at that point, with like roughly 80% market share. In fact, it's changed now because now Binance is there and other exchanges have come.
Okay.
But like up through 2018, 75% of any Indian who bought Bitcoin had bought through ZebPay.
Wow. Wow.
Right? Yeah. And if ZebPay decided to fold, just the news itself would have been bad. Just kind of imagine like in 2018, 19, or 20, Coinbase being, hey, sorry, because in the Biden administration, imagine them being so awful, shutting Coinbase down. If Coinbase shuts down, not even just decides to shut down, that would have slowed down Bitcoin's momentum by a few years. And so really talked to my wife. Luckily, she really believed in me and the idea, and she's like, she understood that I loved it. She also understood that the vision could work. She was very passionate about India, and said, hey, I think we should make a big bet on this, like an all-in bet. She's like, are you sure? I'm like, yeah, I think this is it. Like, this is if we're gonna make one big bet, and if it works, it's not just, it could be a good investment. We could, drastically improve people's lives. And so she gave me a thumbs up. And even though the family kind of said no, me and my wife said yes and put in. So what happened was my wife and I put in the follow-on investment. So now ZebPay's kind of owned 2/3 by me and my wife, and then 1/3 by the family office.
Wow.
And yeah, and it was a crazy decision, but like not going from wood back here, because what happened was literally 6 months after we closed that, the Supreme Court overturned the Reserve Bank of India's directive, and we could start selling again. So it literally went like this and it went back up, and so the value came back because we can now run an exchange.
It just shows that nothing runs completely smoothly. Like people, I'm sure, will look at you and they'll be like, wow, he has everything, the perfect life and everything, but it's like they don't know what you had to overcome to be able to achieve what you have. And I think a lot of people, they'll start projects or they want to become entrepreneurs and then they have a few hurdles and they just give up.
The best word for it is you have to have grit.
Yeah.
So if you don't have grit, it's very hard because you kind of have to stay alive long enough to get lucky. And now ZebPay, here's the wild. ZebPay is older than Ethereum. ZebPay started in 2014. Okay. But really, it started in 2012. The predecessor to ZebPay was a company called buysellbitco.in. The founder is it. So to show you how old that is, that's older than Coinbase. And now you just have to stay alive long enough to and learn from mistakes.
Yeah.
Right.
How long should you give a project before you kind of look at the data and you move on to a new project, especially utilizing AI now?
So I think it's a good question because a large part of the factor is like, how much capital do you have and how much time and energy you have. I do think that when you're young, you're probably not going to find your quote unquote forever company like in your 20s or 30s. So my best advice really is find a great co-founder, right? And then or go work with a company that's like, just starting to hit some success and doing well, right? But then if you're actually starting yourself, like the really big factor is, it- it- you'll know when you have product market fit, right? And when things really pick up, if you're not getting that within like, I'd say 24 months, then you should probably pivot, right? And that's on the far end. I think you can probably know within a year, within 12 months,
Hmm.
right? And if you just go look back at our family and like what we've done is that, I was saying my dad started many companies. There's only about a 20% hit rate. You're only gonna get lucky 1 out of 5 times.
Hmm.
And you kind of have to keep at it. And so it's kind of like, use that example. It's 12 months. It's like start a company's not working, doesn't work. You're lucky on that 1/5. In your 5th year, something will work, right? And then the question is, you have to get it far enough that you have liftoff.
Absolutely. For me personally, I came from the modeling industry. So like I was used to rejection. It's very similar to that. If you go to many castings and you get
Yeah,
maybe chosen
yeah, yeah,
1 out of 10 and you're
yeah.
used to hearing no all the time, and you have to have thick skin, but it seems like it's very similar in business as well.
Absolutely. That's crazy. 1 out of 10. Yeah, you have more grit than everybody else. Like to get 1 out of 10 is like amazing. See, if entrepreneurs go with those type of numbers and they're able to go through it,
Yeah.
and if you don't quit, if you're consistent and disciplined, you'll 100% be successful.
Yeah, and changing things up, always being creative. There's like similarities to even social media marketing and all of that. You have a very cool challenge that you do on X where you're buying Bitcoin, Ethereum, and the basic attention token daily, and you're also doing push-ups. What day are we on?
Yeah, yeah. So it's a cool story. So what happened was, I found out about Bitcoin a long time ago, and then by 2017, I was pretty convinced that these assets were amazing, and then really decided, what is the best way to kind of like almost uh, dive deep in, and I was like, you know what? I think a lot of people, they really think this stuff is a speculative game, and they do play the speculation game, and I was like, I'm not here to speculate. Like I actually believe this for the long run. So I made a post on January 1st, 2019. This is like now 7.5 years ago. And the post was that Bitcoin and Ethereum were amazing. At this point, we made the small investment in ZebPay, and said that, what, I believe it's going to be one of the biggest transformative forces in the world, and I'm going to buy 1 Ether a day. And this back then, 1 Ether was $100. It was like nothing.
Yeah, it's a little bit more
And
today.
yeah, I know. And back then, by the way, Bitcoin was $3,000 back then,
Okay.
right?
Wow.
And I know it's crazy. And I was like, man, I can't afford to buy 3,000, but I could probably afford to buy $100 a day.
Yeah.
And I bought it for a year. So I spent like $36,000, and then really decided that, what, I'm going to buy 1 ETH every day and then make a post. And so it started with Ethereum, just because it wasn't a crazy number, like $3,000. It wasn't a tiny number. And then when I realized that, during that year, I realized the biggest thing was habits, and really good habits compound. And that was very eye-opening to me. Then I added, I was like, what, why am I not buying Bitcoin? Bitcoin's the best coin, right? And so I bought a small amount, it's like 0.0001 or something like that. And then as the price went up, I had to drop it from 1 Ether to 0.1 Ether to 0.01 Ether. So I can't afford as the price gets higher and higher and higher. But what I did is I kept the habit. So I still buy Bitcoin, Ether, and BAT every single day. And then about 4 years ago, I was like, you know what? I'm gonna put health into this stuff. So one of my best friends was doing push-ups. I'm like, I'm gonna just add push-ups, and so
Yeah.
started doing push-ups every day, and it's great. It's like I have a little rhythm where I buy the Bitcoin, I buy the BAT, I do push-ups. I do 50 push-ups in the morning, 50 push-ups at night. Make a little post and comment about it, and really, it's great because it's almost like a meditation, right? It just keeps me focused, and it sounds weird to people, but it's really one of the most dramatic things in my life, because it takes away like whether the price is going up or down, it grounds me so I don't get too happy or too sad,
Yeah.
right? Yeah,
I try and get paid in Bitcoin.
I love it.
So
Yes.
for my job, so like I'm like this past year, I've been accumulating more, obviously, because I'm forced to be buying
Yeah.
it. I'm like always so happy when I see that little ping in my wallet. I'm like, oh yes.
Really, that's the idea. It's kind of like even changing the way you're thinking about it. So let's just use that the Ether that I bought in 2019. It was roughly $100, a little bit more than that, but that I bought 365 Ether, right, for roughly $36,000, right? And now Ether is worth, it's down, it's 1,700, let's call it 2,000, keep it simple.
Mhm.
It's gone up almost 20 times in price,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And it's mind blowing. So, but the thing is, that's why some people are saying, "Oh, what about now? It's not going to go up anymore." And you and I both believe that. Oh man, the future is way
Of
bigger than the
course.
past,
Yeah. Yeah.
right? And
Yeah.
now
And
it's not gonna like 1,000x, but it can still 10x very easily,
that
which is
that
crazy.
that's what bothers me. I feel like, especially this year, we've seen a lot of people be very vocal online who used to be big Bitcoin believers to all of a sudden
Yeah,
just anti
yeah,
Bitcoin, especially. And for me, like I'm bullish on a lot of different
yeah,
coins.
yeah,
I have Bitcoin, I like Bitcoin, but I'm more into like privacy coins. But I find that strange how you can have such conviction and then one day just wake up and then it's completely gone.
yeah, yeah.
Um,
Real quick, Zano, because you also believe in XRP, and I love ZebPay is one of the biggest. We're the first exchange to list XRP.
wow.
Yeah, we have millions of customers on XRP, so we love it.
Yeah. Yeah,
And
especially
yeah,
that region of the world, with cross-border payments,
yes,
and I think that's a coin where people I could see making a lot of money because obviously,
yeah,
it's listed low. I know it has a high market cap, but I think that easily, could be much higher.
yeah, exactly. So people love it because they use it to transfer money between other exchanges. It's very easy to go back and forth.
Mhm.
And then the second thing is, yeah, privacy is also a huge factor, right? So the privacy coins are also a great coin. So great
Yeah.
call on those assets.
We're living in a world where surveillance continues to expand and privacy tools are becoming more and more important. And I know some of these tools can be really complicated, but I'm here to tell you about something that is very easy to use. Financial privacy is extremely important, and that's why I want to tell you about Zano. So Zano is a private by default cryptocurrency where users' transactions are totally confidential, unlike Bitcoin. So with Bitcoin, Bitcoin is a public ledger where if somebody sends you money through Bitcoin, you are able to look up how much money they have in that wallet address, and you're able to see other interactions they've had. With a private cryptocurrency like Zano, this is not the case. You're not able to find out any information. And this is very important today and especially in the coming years. The co-founder of Zano was actually one of the lead developers behind CryptoNote, which was the technology behind Monero, which is pretty cool. You can actually have so many different confidential assets on Zano. I'm able to take my Bitcoin and actually wrap it into a private version that lives on Zano so that I'm able to have all the privacy features of Zano. I'm able to do this with a lot of other cryptocurrencies like Ethereum and Solana. And this is basically a way to wrap that asset to where it keeps the likeness of Bitcoin, meaning the value and the scarcity of Bitcoin, but it lives on Zano. This is a very, very cool feature. And I have done this with some of my Bitcoin. If you want to buy Zano, one of the most popular exchanges to buy Zano is Mexi, and I would recommend using a VPN. You can also find a full list of exchanges at zanolist.com/exchanges, and I'll have that link down below, as well as some other information about Zano.
And so after ZebPay was able to come back in, India has very strict rules on what you can list or not list. This thing called the FIU, the Financial Intelligence Unit.
Okay.
But the cool thing, like luckily, ZebPay, it really is like Coinbase or Kraken. It's one of the bigger exchanges in India. So we follow the rules. We have a great compliance team. We have a great listing team, and we're one of the best exchanges in all of India. And so the real thing now is more of a regulation game. So we have to follow whatever the Indian government wants us
Yeah,
to
of
do.
course, of course. So even Zcash, even if it's transparent Zcash, you can't have it?
No, they haven't explicitly blocked it, but like it's kind of like untold. Hey, listen, we won't list that.
Okay.
It's kind of like it's like slowing down. We break on the yellow light instead of trying to go through.
Yeah, I understand.
Yeah,
I was going to say you guys should list Zano.
yeah. No, and
That's
Zano
a lot of
is a
process.
privacy coin.
Yeah.
So does it have a shielded version, or
No,
does it have like?
it's all private by default. Yeah.
So as you know, we'll talk about Brave later on, but like I love privacy. In fact, one of the biggest weaknesses of Bitcoin and Ether is that it's a huge weakness. You know this
Yeah.
is it's pseudonymous. So like it's got some privacy, but not really. You can go back and go do it. And so I am worried about that. But like I said, some people who are the skeptics are like, oh, that's not good. I'm like, no, the network effect is too large for it to bother
Yeah.
it. But like, what will happen is people have a big savings in here, and then they'll move a portion to a privacy amount, which they can then spend money without government surveillance.
Well, that's why I think they say the market cap of Zcash should be about 10% of Bitcoin. I don't think Bitcoin's going anywhere, but I think the
I'm
day
bullish on
we're
Zcash. I
we're
think it's
coming into, I think privacy is really important, and I definitely wanna get into your affiliation with Brave here soon. But yeah, I think, like, privacy coins, everyone should kind of be learning a little bit more and figuring out ways to be able to buy them. I would like to talk a little bit about the basic attention token because I do think the market cap of that should be so much higher.
when I started buying every day, man, the price of BAT. The reason why I added BAT one, I love Brave and BAT, but like it's a token that's a lot more, reasonable for people to understand. Right now it's like 9 cents or something, right? It's like tiny. When I started buying every day, it was at probably 20 cents. So it went from 20 cents all the way up to like a dollar something, dollar
Okay.
50, then came back down. So I would say out of all three assets, Bitcoin, ETH, and BAT is, in my opinion, by far the most undervalued, and it's
I
it's
agree.
almost like ridiculously valued. And the
Yeah.
reason why I don't think people see it yet. One, they're not connecting the narrative of how it all connects back into the ecosystem.
Mhm.
So what's unique? So obviously people understand Bitcoin is great, and Ether, and even XRP is great. Then you have like these meme coins, which just I'm not a huge meme coin guy. There's some people who love meme coins, and I know people gamble on them, but they're fun. And
Yeah.
then you have the really good coins in the middle who are like utility coins, whether it's like Chainlink or Aave or Uniswap.
Mhm.
And what ends up happening is with BAT, people who even use Brave, a lot of people who use Brave, they don't even understand what BAT is. And so what now, to me, that's a problem. For many people, it's a problem. To me, it's an opportunity. So what happens is Brave, I think in the very near future, and there's a whole roadmap, is with 121 million people that use Brave,
Mhm.
they're eventually going to start integrating BAT into the browser so you can actually use it for more stuff.
Yeah.
And really, the best analogy I can do is remember how like Tesla was like the cars have been going along for a while, but the stock was flat for like 10 years
Okay.
because it was like from like 2009 to 2018, it didn't go anywhere. You can go back and look at the chart. And what happened was like really, I feel like Elon was kind of fine tuning what Tesla could become. And then it really took off kind of like about 4 or 5 years ago when it was very clear that they weren't going to die, that they weren't going to fail. So I really think the reason why the price is down, are people still were like, hey, what's going to happen? Is it a real token? Is it going to live? Is it going to survive? And what's really cool, in my opinion, not survive, it's going to thrive. And so over the next few years, as Brave starts integrating more into the browser, you're going to see a tremendous amount of growth. Like I'd say the coin that has the highest chance to 100x,
Mhm.
which is a crazy number,
Yeah.
is BAT.
I completely agree. I mean, I'm a huge believer in Brave, hence why we even
Yeah,
got
yeah, we
connected.
met. Yeah.
But it to be maybe in the near future we start seeing great movement.
I'll tell you what, Breeze, and I know we met through our friend Luke, Luke Mulks, who people want
Yeah,
to look on.
he's
He's a
great.
great back guy. Like, and people don't like it. Oh, I don't want to give financial advice, and I'm sure you put that restriction in, but like by far the best asset is BAT, and meaning that you risk adjust it. You're able to buy this token near the ICO price of 2017, like nearly almost 9 years ago, which was crazy. And it's roughly, call it 10 cents, keep it simple. This can easily go to $1 within the next few years, and not just that, it can easily go to $10 a few years after that. So my real, sounds crazy, crazy, crazy to me. Back can 10x in the next
Yeah.
3 4 years, and then 10x again another 3 4 years. So it can 100x within the next 8 years. Now, some people who are crypto speculators, they want to. It's not speculation; it's actually investment. Very few assets can go up 100. In fact, I've got a book here called 100 Bagger. I got to find it for you. And so it can really be 100 bag.
So you said that Brave has over 100 million users right now. Do you think a lot of people just don't have that feature enabled to be, stacking back?
Yeah. So we just announced a few days ago. There's 121 million monthly active users and
Wow.
51 million daily active users. It's actually mind blowing.
Yeah.
It's pretty much the biggest browser that's not owned by Apple or Google or
Hmm.
Microsoft. Um, and that's exactly it. So I think what there's a lot of people who so it's almost like a store. They walk into the store, and what Brave has done in the very beginning, we kind of had BAT near the front, and just because of like other stuff going on, it's really more on the side. Like if people have to go there and go find it. And I think that uh sometimes history doesn't repeat itself; it rhymes. I think over the next few years, as everyone knows, it is the main token for Brave. Once people actually start fooling around with these users, but they go from monthly active users to daily active users, it can grow a lot. To show you why you're talking about the numbers out of whack. there's 1.5 billion BAT outstanding,
Okay.
and we're 120 million users today. When we get to 150 million users, that means there's only 10 BAT per user.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Even at most, and 10 BAT right now is ready. It's like 90 cents.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So now the reason I'm bringing this up is let's say we bring in with AI or with like VPN or calls or whatever. Eventually, just like BNB coin or other coins, if Brave integrates BAT into the system and builds some sort of burn model or other models, I just see demand rising while supply is falling.
Yeah. And I think that goes back into like the original ethos of Brave too. It's a user first economy. I just want to talk a little bit about Brave and what makes it different than other browsers. You're on the board of Brave, and I think Brave is giving the ability for users to fight back in, a digital economy against surveillance and data harvesting. I guess I'm curious of your thoughts on how many Americans in particular are even aware that their data is being collected and wanting to take back more of like their digital sovereignty.
Yeah. So it's kind of cool. The reason why I found out about Brave, exactly right, was Ethereum, and then from Ethereum learned about the BAT token,
Mm-hmm.
and then ZebPay had listed the BAT token as one of the very first tokens they had listed, and then kind of fell in love with Brave, and our family made an investment in Brave, and now I'm on the board. So big fan of Brave and its ethos. In many ways, part of the investment thesis was that all these assets are amazing, but if you can't use them in like some sort of in a daily life, it's not going to work. And so my real kind of light bulb moment was realizing that if I'm going to use Bitcoin or Ether or XRP,
Mm-hmm.
I need like a way to actually spend it. And so I was like, the browser is like the best kind of tool for that.
Yeah.
And when we first invested into Brave, they had like 2 million users, and now they have 120 million. So it's gone up like 50 times more than 50 times, in size. Part of the other ethos was this privacy stuff, and Brave came at it from like kind of like two different points. It kind of came maybe three: ad blocking on one, privacy on two, and kind of like Web3 and crypto on three.
Yeah.
But really, what's funny is ad blocking is a general one where like most people, because it blocks YouTube ads and everything else, but privacy is the underlying call it ethos. And if you look at Brave right now, really it's kind of marketed as a privacy browser, right? And to me, when I first kind of saw it, I kind of saw, but really, I thought this is interesting, but I kind of fell in love with the mission. So after several years of, being on the board and making the investment, I realized that the mission is actually very important. Like you don't want, this big brother view where these, corporate surveillance, all these companies know so much about you. I'll give you an example. We have an Alexa in our house, but like, I try not to talk to it a lot because I'm like, my kids, my wife's up because
But
all
it's
just
always
collecting information.
listening.
Yes. And I do believe that over time, more and more Americans are understanding this stuff, and it's good for people to have options. And we're getting a lot of users because of it.
Absolutely. And I think too, people are even becoming more weary about even having cameras in their house, security cameras and stuff. Yeah, you can monitor activity that's going on, or if you have an intruder, but also you have another party that has full access to what's going on in your house, your private details, private conversations, and all of that.
It's amazing. Like you'll be talking about something that you don't even know how they heard about, but then it'll pop up on like a Facebook ad or an Amazon ad or
Yeah. Yeah.
and it's mind blowing.
Especially on social media. But I think another thing that is very, very scary is the fact that it's almost like our free will is kind of leaving us because, like you said, they are always listening. And, we're getting ads all the time that are possibly skewing our opinions a bit and just kind of getting rid of our choices ultimately.
Yeah, I've been very worried about that. And it's cool. And for everyone else who's watching as well, Brave also has ads. Brave does it in a privacy protecting way. What they mean by that is most of these platforms are built up and they know everything about you, Bree. They know your age, your sex, your this, your that, like, your political thing, what religion you are. And then they literally, it's wild how much stuff they can find out about you. Brave does it in a privacy preserving way. So all of your data lives on your phone and they don't ever target that way. And so, but yeah, like you're right about like, is the company really, are you the product or are you the consumer, the user?
Yeah.
Right. And Brave tries to make sure that the user itself is always first.
No,
and Brendan, the CEO, has
absolutely.
done a great job.
And I think that is the world we're entering into. I think a lot of people are going to be demanding that. There's definitely a huge market for privacy tech. I think people are sick and tired at this point. And we obviously saw everything that went on with the Twitter files and Facebook and everything. And it's a time that everyone, I think, like, even people that aren't interested in technology need to understand, like, they can take some of their freedoms back and like have sovereignty over their life. And I think that that's very, very important because at the same time, like, I don't know, with like the algorithms just shaping your way that you even vote, like, that's so concerning.
As you know, like AI is the big narrative now, and
Yeah.
you can kind of like with a prompt, push the AI, and people forgetting. I mean, we're kind of like AI. We're like learning machines, and if this kind of system that you're putting all your attention into, it can shape you. It can shape people this way or that way, and you got to be very, very careful. And that's the hard part. Like it's hard getting a fair, independent view of the world,
Yeah.
right? Yeah.
I love that you brought up AI. Like, how big of a threat do you think AI is to our privacy? Obviously, we're seeing more decentralized AIs, but at the same time, like
Yeah.
the big winners
Yeah.
are these centralized
Yeah.
AIs.
Exactly right. So obviously ChatGPT and Anthropic and Gemini and Grok are enormous. And let's talk about ChatGPT. Like, I mean, really, their main business model, just like Google, is to collect information about you,
Yeah.
right? And it's amazing that how much intimate information you can put into the system. And I am worried about that because all information, ChatGPT keeps logs on it.
Hmm.
So you could be talking about it like your healthcare data or even like some personal data, and with a subpoena, they can get that. And so obviously, Brave has a private one called Leo or ask.brave.com. It's one of the largest private AI systems in the world. Venice.ai just raised some money. Venice is really, really cool. Eric Voorhees is a great guy.
I would love to interview Eric one day.
Yeah. Yeah, totally. We have a connection to him, so let me figure out how to connect you up
Thank
with him.
you.
Yeah. He's awesome. He's a great guy, and he has built so much cool stuff from like early Bitcoin to Shapeshift to Venice. And actually, Venice is they use the Brave Search API to power some of its search results, because that's also important. Because even if you're using AI, people are forgetting that, say you use an AI which says it's private. What normally happens is when you ask the AI a question, it does a Google search, right?
Mhm.
But then Google knows what you searched for,
Yeah.
right? So it's not really private then, is it? So one of Brave's biggest value adds is like Venice, you'll ask it a question, it'll ask Brave the question, but we guarantee zero data retention. It's called CDR. So anything you search, we instantly delete it. Like we give you the copy and then we shred it,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
In this way, we can't build a profile on you.
No,
Right.
that's incredible. And then let's just talk a little bit about ChatGPT, Claude. How are they even making their money? Because, it's a little bit different than a typical business. The more users they have, the more questions or prompts we're asking them, the more electricity that requires, the more compute. It's been a lucrative business model.
Yeah. ChatGPT is so interesting because I guess it's more on the consumer side, and I know a little about not a ton about it. So it's obviously doing well, and valuations going through the roof, and Claude is doing a job more enterprise.
Yeah.
I think. Well, first of all, like this is my own personal opinion. They're both really, really good. I'm definitely digging Claude a lot more in the fact that it seems more intelligent. I think this one, I think one feeling seems more like a intelligence or like a CEO. One feels more like a chief marketing officer and stuff like that, like ChatGPT. But like on the actual, let's say, how they operate and versus harm versus good they do. I think um you know, there's two things. When I was driving back home from the holiday, I saw these big signs that data doesn't drink water or something like that. It's really about the fact that like these data systems are taking so much energy. I have not done enough information to like if it's good or bad. I do think that um like in the long run these technologies will be good. Like I mean I'd say is it really AI is an accelerant of technology,
Hmm.
and you have to make sure that you're using it in a proper way. Luckily, Brave also plays in the space, but Brave tries to make sure that we do it in a very, very open, honest, in a safe way.
Yeah.
Right?
Of course, AI and blockchain are the most transformative technologies of our lifetime. And we are getting to the point where we're seeing them working together. And I'm very curious when the new roadmap for Brave comes out and we're seeing our agents actually paying for things on our behalf. And I'm not just
Yeah.
talking about certain very
Yeah.
techie people, just the average
Yeah.
consumer that's
Yeah.
online. I think that's going to be a very interesting time for many different currencies, but especially bad. Do you see that happening in the next
So
few years?
yeah, absolutely. So there's a couple ideas here, and this is the reason why I'm very bullish on BAT. So in two words, it's like a data dividend, right? The idea is, can you kind of like browse and somehow, I imagine like I call it like a dimmer switch
Hmm.
of privacy. So to me, the future of Brave is like this: is that there's one level here where it's totally private, totally anonymous, and you can browse in the dark with like infrared glasses. But this should be, you got to pay for this because we're
Yeah.
providing a service.
Yeah, of course.
And some people have, and then you have people over here, a lot of people in India who can't really afford this,
Hmm.
and they would have like full lights on switch. And there's probably people in the middle who want like, dimly lit. And what would end up happening is when you're here, you don't know who I am, but here you can see that like I'm a male, I'm 49 years old, and I live in America, and I'm Indian origin. And what would end up happening is, if the more that I decide to disclose, I know that I'm disclosing it, but I get a data dividend,
Okay.
right? So the money comes to me, not Google. And the cool thing about this, imagine browsing and you're doing stuff, you're helping making the system better, and then you make money. And as you're making money, now I have tokens and credits, and I say, you know what? I've earned like $100 in tokens over the past week. I can then use those tokens like, hey, go buy me tickets to the World Cup,
Hmm.
right? And as long as what you say is, I would say the World Cup's in my neighborhood, and I can literally say, I don't want you to buy the ticket until the game starts, and then I want to buy like a nosebleed section for $100. It's like, which would be like a great deal, because like, let's say someone, it would literally wait until the ticket price drops. It'll buy for you, and it'll ding you. Oh, by the way, the ticket's available right now. The game's already started, but if you rush over, you can get this, the last, three quarters of it. The agent will do all that stuff, and I think BAT can be like the system that we work. So I think, to me, we're exactly that is AI plus blockchain and digital assets.
Hmm.
They're really, people think of them separate, but I think it was almost yin and yang. It's the same investment thesis, but the other side of the coin.
Facebook, I have a fairly large following on the platform, and my page is monetized, so I'm making money through it. And I'm thinking, I'm like, what if they launch their own coin, and then I'm able to purchase things using their coin? So it would be fairly similar. Obviously, Brave is much better, and it's user first.
I'm really excited about this future, because like it's a great way for like creators to make money,
Yeah,
right? And part of the original idea was also tips, right? And be able to
yeah,
give tips.
yeah. Brave tip. Are you guys still doing that?
I think so. It's not anywhere near as big. So what I see what kind of happened is, like, when we started the idea, a lot of stuff worked, and some things worked better than others. Like
Yeah.
obviously the browser and ad blocking, the tips. This is the whole point why I think tips didn't work out as well as it could have. Is it's auto tipped. Like it's kind of like it gives tip based on what you're looking at.
Okay.
But I think in the long run, now that, see, we didn't really have AI back then. I think now that there's AI, it
Hmm.
can probably say, hey, listen, tip along these parameters, a little bit more complex. And
Yeah.
meaning every algorithm can be different. Like the way your tipping algorithm is different from my algorithm,
Yeah.
right? Yeah, but it's still there. Yeah.
Yeah. So when you look across different AI projects today, I guess which ones are you the most excited about?
Yeah. I mean, one of them we just mentioned was Venice. I think, and
Yeah.
I use it a little bit,
Yeah.
but I need to look more at the token economics.
Okay.
Venice is very, very cool. I think, obviously all of the systems are great, from like, Perplexity to Claude to ChatGPT. The other systems I think are good is, I would say my wife, she's a doctor. She uses this thing called open evidence.
Okay.
And you don't really hear a whole lot about it, but like it's cool. Like doctors are using this stuff. And these are like, it's just, imagine like a like ChatGPT, but with more technical
Mhm.
language. I'm really excited about the future. I think as systems get better and better and better, I'm very bullish on this technology and how it will improve humans' lives.
Absolutely. If it's giving more opportunity and resources to people, especially in other countries that maybe don't have so many resources, I think it's wonderful. And just like anything, it's
Yeah,
neutral. It can be used for good. It could be used
good or
for
bad.
evil. And
Exactly. It's just doing it and putting in with safe guardrails and safety aspects into it. The one thing I know you asked me earlier is, I think probably one of the biggest areas where AI is going to help you out is healthcare, right? So, really, from developing new drugs to this seeing things which we not even thought of, right? And so I'm really, really excited about that. And so that gets into a ton of things, from like longevity to like, it can open so many doors. It's gonna be mind blowing.
okay, I like to end with one last question. I'm just curious about a few book recommendations that you have for my
Yeah,
audience, maybe a couple books that have
yeah.
changed your life or really have, changed the way you think.
Yeah, sure, sure. So obviously, I'm now a big Bitcoiner. I'm sure
Mhm.
you've gotten the Bitcoin standard,
Yeah.
right? Yeah. So I'm gonna, and I've got mine. So mine's got a little a Brave logo on it, but like
I was like, mine
this is
doesn't
like,
have that.
yeah, I know. I put it on there because I was like, I'm remember a little flavor. So the Bitcoin standard, I'm sure you get it a lot. It's just a phenomenal book, and everyone at ZebPay gets that. The other books, which are, I'm gonna go a little more old school, kind of like when I first got into entrepreneurship. Some of the best books are these, Good to Great
Okay.
and Built to Last.
Okay.
And the reason why those books are awesome, it's really like, how are you building a business that can last for like, decades,
Mhm.
right? And to me, seeing that framework, like, if you're building something that lasts a long, long time, that's kind of like why I was Bitcoin and Ethereum are amazing. These aren't like, fly by night, make money, really quickly type ideas. These are really, to me, Bitcoin and Ethereum are also like brands. And as more and more people join the ecosystem, the brand gets stronger and stronger. And so once again, this book, the Bitcoin Standard, Built to Last, and then Good to Great. Those are Jim Collins books. And then the last one I'd say is a really good old school book called The 22 Immutable Laws of Marketing. That's a great book. It's not very thick.
Okay.
The 22 Immutable Laws of Marketing, it gives great ideas about like what really sticks out in people's mind. And this is where I'd say, you asked me like why I realized that Bitcoin had so much value. So what happened was, the one of those laws is that like the law of being first, and the idea was that like Coca-Cola has much more brand power than Pepsi, really, because it was the first kind of cola.
Mhm.
And so this is my background, like why I think Bitcoin, even other coins can be great, XRP and BAT and Ethereum, but the reason why Bitcoin wins, it just has a brand market share.
Yeah, yeah.
So, yeah,
Everyone knows about Bitcoin. Not everyone
yes,
knows about XRP or
yeah,
Ethereum.
yeah,
Bitcoin was the first.
exactly.
And then one last thing before we leave, where is a great place that my audience could follow and support you?
And you'll see, I'm very, hardcore about doing my push-ups and buying my Bitcoin, my Ether, my BAT, but mainly X, and it's at ETH_US, Ethos. And just look up, just search for ZebPay, ZebPay. My name will pop up.
Thank you so much for joining me, and I'm definitely going to check out some of those suggestions. But yeah, it was a pleasure having you on the show, and I believe in what you're doing, and you have done so much for the world, and your family sounds amazing.
Brie, thanks for having me, and I've been following you as well. You have a lot of the same ethos and energy, so really appreciate. And anytime you have questions, just give me a call. Thanks.
Thank you.